All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm Sunir Shah, president of the Cloud Software Association and CEO of AppBind. I'm here once again with another great SaaS Connect one-on-one with Rohit Gupta from AWS, who has all the answers to all the questions about one of the hottest platforms out there in SaaS. I mean, AWS, who doesn't know? As we were discussing in the pre-jokes, my wife doesn't know what AWS is. She thinks you can ship computers in a box. I guess you can do that, but that's not what we're talking about today. One of the biggest, there are a lot of questions that we all have in the Cloud Software Association. We're the SaaS Partnership Network about how to, partner with AWS, how to use the platform, how to go through AWS Marketplace. Rohit Gupta is a particularly interesting person. We'll get into your story because you didn't start off at AWS. You started off at Trend Micro, learned about distribution, then worked at an ISV, Alert Logic, went through the whole experience with Amazon as a partner, and then joined AWS to help everyone else figure out their ISV partnerships. And that's exactly what we all want to know. So, thank you for being here, Rohit. And I'll tell you, by the way, the audience, fire questions away. We have the Q&A, fire away. We're here to answer your questions. But Rohit, can you tell us about yourself? I mean, you have quite extensive experience. Like, tell me about, your background before Amazon.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. Really appreciate the opportunity and to share what I know about the journey. So I've been at AWS for just over 4 years in the partner org. And the current role that I'm in, it's a kind of an interesting one where I work very closely with some of our product teams. We call them service teams to help them go to market with partners. And so I'm on the kind of the other side of the house a little bit where I'm very focused on a certain set of services like database or serverless computing or managed services and a few others. And the idea is to find partners who can help promote those services in the market. Before this, I was managing the security partner community here at AWS. So work very closely with some of the companies that offer security solutions to our cloud customers. And that really came about because of the time I spent, as you mentioned previously, with Alert Logic and Trend Micro and Imperva, all security companies that are now in the cloud and working with our customers to provide enhanced security solutions to them. And so, yes, I've had the opportunity of being at an endpoint security, cloud security, application security space, managed security services, and then moving into sort of a broader framework of solutions like database and managed services.
You tell me, like, my impression is in that space, but for AWS, it would not have grown as quickly as it did because AWS was the earliest computing cloud, with EC3 and S3, EC2 and S3, and it just did so much for that market. How much of Alert Logic, opportunity was because of AWS?
So it's interesting. When I started out at Alert Logic, this was in 2011. So remember, it's only 5 years into the journey for a cloud or AWS at least, right? And so it was early days. And back then, Alert Logic was, interestingly enough, a SaaS network security company. And you sort of look at that and say, okay, SaaS and network and security kind of don't really go hand in hand, but because at that time it was a new thing. Now it's quite common to have SaaS security companies. But the way they did SaaS was putting hardware on premises and managing it remotely. So it really wasn't SaaS in the way you and I think about it today. It was shipping devices, and really the bulk of it was done through hardware devices. And then over time, they switched to virtual appliances. But even so, it was some sort of an appliance living on-prem and supporting the network infrastructure for that company. And then we started sort of really in earnest, sort of middle of 2012 when we had our first solution listed on AWS Marketplace. We were one of the launch partners along with Trend Micro in the security space in the AWS Marketplace. And that really kind of got us going in the early days. And over time, what happened was that the bulk of the revenue started moving from on-prem to hosted or into the cloud. And so we really sort of watched that transition happen from shipping hardware to really procuring through AWS Marketplace in the cloud during the time that I was there for about 5 years. So it's a pretty big part of their business, and I think it remains that way.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. My impression, it's been a long time since I talked to someone at Trend Micro, but my impression, because they're an older company, right? They really locked up the distribution channel, and they sold a lot through distributors because you have like VARs and whatever buying, because it was hardware, right? Mostly, like you're saying, pizza boxes and rack mounts and things like that. And so it was like a channel company. I think most of Trend Micro's sales are from the channel ecosystem and distributor ecosystem. Is that right?
A lot of it is, yes. I think that's changing over time as well. But yes, they do a lot of work through distribution. They've been around for well over 25 years. I have lost count exactly when they started, but it's been definitely at least that long. And they made that transition as well from being an endpoint security company into a virtualization and cloud security company. So I think what you're realizing is that as companies are moving to the cloud, they're looking at sort of their entire support infrastructure of software, at least, and looking at, what do I need to take with me? What do I start over with? What is custom built for the cloud? And so companies like Trend Micro and AlertLogic were early into the game. And so they had sort of an unfair advantage in those early days. But, obviously now you have a wealth of availability of different types of solutions. I worked a lot with companies like Palo Alto Networks and Okta and CrowdStrike that have built their infrastructure on AWS to help secure other AWS customers.
Well, that's perfect, because like the reason why I bring that up is one of the things, reason why I started my own company, AppBuying, which is around how to bring SaaS into the channel, which is difficult because of subscription billing. Because I grew up actually in the old channel, like in the Microsoft license universe. And and one of the things that confounds me continuously is that 64% of B2B software is still sold through partners, but less than 23% at max of B2B SaaS is sold through partners. But this is something that AWS has definitely made a ginormous dent in that problem. And you lived through like the transition, right? From like shipping pizza boxes, hardware, out to an entirely like cloud-based SaaS-based model, not just virtualization layers, but like totally cloud-based. And now you're actually at the marketplace. So you are a very unique individual who's lived through the journey, seen it all, and what it takes to transition. And I think you've been part of the rebound where we're trying to actually make the channel happen and distribution happen, but for cloud. And so this is why I raise that, because I think it's going to color a lot of the story here. A lot of people who don't even understand the channel is the ultimate way to sell technology. And AWS is like right at the forefront of this. So that's why I brought it up. So let's get into your role at AWS, and maybe we'll draw on your past experience where necessary, because I think it's still interesting. But like, what is your role at AWS specifically? And then like AWS is a huge organization, especially the partnership team. So let's start with your role and then branch out from there.
So if you think about it, AWS has a sales organization that sells everything. We have over 200 services that what other companies may call products, right? So they're out there selling everything. Whatever is best for the customer needs to be successful is what they will sell. But we have also specialized sales teams that focus on certain types of service areas. So database is an example of that, one of the areas that I lead. So there is a specialist sales organization that is focused on selling database. They're experts in database. They understand that technology. They know how to position that when customers are considering either moving from the existing database platform or looking at a net new type of database that is custom built for their needs. And then where I come in is I work with both the service teams and the specialist sales org to make sure that partners are capable of delivering what customers need there. And so my focus is very much around helping specific service teams and specialist sales organizations where they are really go to market with partners. So working with consulting companies, working with technology companies, working with distribution that can really focus the efforts on those services that really matter the most to us and to the customer base that we are trying to sell to. So what happens a lot of times is that customers have a relationship with a partner, let's call it a consulting partner. They might say, listen, I really do all of my business with this partner. They manage all of my infrastructure, but they don't understand this particular technology area. So then my team would go in and enable them to actually get up to speed, help them in initial deals that they're working on to make sure that that partner is capable of delivering at the level that the customer expects for those particular services.
Okay,
right. I don't know. Yeah, there was a gap there. There's a delay, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe I'll switch networks in a second. Yeah, I mean, like so you're working with all these partners, but are there particular kinds of ISVs that are more successful than others? I mean, AWS, you can't sell everything. So what are the main areas that you think are growing and successful with AWS right now?
So, there's a lot of opportunity for everyone here. The way I think about this, and I think Andy has talked about this at reInvent as well, is that we are at less than 5% adoption of cloud across all of IT infrastructure. So it might seem like things are really all cloudy because we all live in that world, and other than perhaps your in-laws,
definitely cloudy. That's right.
At least the people on this call today are likely to sort of understand cloud well, or at least SaaS. That's still early days, right? So there is an opportunity for everyone. I think that the way I like to think about this is you have to be an expert in what you do to really sort of take the lion's share of that opportunity for yourself. And so if you're not sort of fully immersed into that cloud journey yourself, where you can be an advisor to your customers who are doing that, you're not going to be as successful as those who are. And so really sort of understand what it takes. Most ISVs, unless they're very new, started out in some sort of a private data center, whether it was theirs or a colo, and they made that journey too, or are in that process, right? And we are helping companies with programs like our SaaS Factory program that basically helps you SaaSify your application and get it running for an ISV on AWS and sold through our channels like Marketplace. So the idea that there is an opportunity for the ISV to really sort of become the trusted advisor. And so I've seen that happen, like I mentioned, in the security space, and now in the database area, in managed services, in serverless computing, which is so new for most of our customers that they're just trying to understand what serverless means. And so we just launched a month ago our Lambda extensions feature, which allows you to plug in ISV solutions. So companies like New Relic have added on extensions that allow you to monitor running serverless functions. And so if you have a serverless job running under Lambda, you can now monitor it. So there are examples across the board of ISVs that have leaned in and built solutions early, but really most importantly, understand what they're doing in the cloud and can advise their customers on how to do it right.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is the thing I wanted to wrap my head around, because it will help. So, I mean, you're helping consultants and sales teams and tech consultants, like there's like service consultants and tech consultants and the ISVs solving challenges. But still, I think just to like narrow the scope of our conversation, I think AWS is still primarily an IT and DevOps-y kind of SaaS verticals for right now. I mean, it's unlikely, MarTech or sales tech is right now. Is that right? Or am I wrong at this point? I mean, AWS has grown so much. I mean, you have call centers. Who knows?
We're constantly adding new capabilities and services to the portfolio. And, we have solutions that are all up, like, for example, Amazon Connect, which is our call center solution that came out of our own, use of this technology and what we have built. And then if you look across the board, we're doing a lot more around AI/ML with our SageMaker solution. So we are definitely providing more capabilities that are beyond sort of this traditional view that people have of DevOps and IT, and we'll continue to innovate as where our customers ask us to go. And so yes, I think we do already a lot more than people think.
We do a lot more than people think. I mean, every time I go onto the portal, there's like another 3 products out there. It is amazing what is possible now. Okay, so we're mapping out the kinds of roles of the partner. So you have solution consultants, tech consultants, ISVs, and I guess distributors to some degree. but AWS itself as an organization now has to mirror kind of the demand. Like there's a lot of AWS partners, people. Like, how can you give an overview of the overall organization? And again, like once again, where does your role sit? Because there's so many groups, I can't even keep track of it myself.
There's a good sized partner team that is focused on helping partners be successful and really ultimately serving the needs of the customer. Right? We start with the customer and work backwards. You've probably heard that in the way Amazon operates. So everything starts with, what are you doing that's helping customers? And so if you keep that as the North Star, I think there are different teams that help partners work better with customers. And so there are teams that are focused on partner management. And even there, you would have consulting, distribution, ISV partners that have separate teams. You have functions that are sort of cross-team, where I am right now, for example, where we are working with different parts of the partner organization. So we'll work with the consulting teams, we'll work with the ISV teams, we'll work with our distribution teams, but focused on the service area that I represent, or my team represents. And so there is a vast sort of organization available to partners based on what they're trying to do versus necessarily where they fit. And so one of the things we did at reInvent last year, if you watch Doug's talk, who is our head of our partner program, we talked about the fact that there is a blending of what partners are now. So ISVs are no longer the only ones shipping software or providing software. A lot of our consulting partners are building software solutions that they're selling. Most of them are SaaS. Some of them are on-prem as well, but largely selling ISV-like solutions. So there isn't quite that same, clear distinction. And we've tried to really simplify the journey. What are you trying to do for customers, and how can you be more effective? So we introduced something called the Isv Partner Path at reInvent, which allows you to sort of really it's a more prescriptive approach to working with AWS as a partner. And so I get that question a lot, where do I start? What should I do? That's exactly what that ISV Partner Path is for. The other one that I like to point out, especially if you're an earlier stage company, is our Global Startup Program, which is also very, very interesting for companies. We find that a lot of startups build their first application on AWS, and then they start sort of getting to a point where they are going to market and they're looking for assistance. How do I get started? What should I do? So there's a separate community focused on that startup customer and turning them into startup partners. And that's where the Global Startup Program is.
Well, I mean, I'm an evil person, so I've actually trapped you here, Rohit, on behalf of all the members, and give you a hard time, because I mean, you had the same experience at Alert Logic. Tell me I'm not wrong. It's just too much. Like what you described, there's a million types of partners, there's a million programs, there's a million verticals. So you have like this three-dimensional hairball, right? And then I'm like, I need to, like as a partner manager, I gotta tell you something about the CSA, by the way. I say it all the time. Partner managers are anxious people because you're betting other people's money, your CEO's money or the developer's resources or whatever you're doing internally on another company you have no control over in order to get a result, right? You're like constantly like, I have no control over this. And often they're under resource teams, partner teams, right? Because partnerships in SaaS are still, honestly, still more of a vitamin than a painkiller. It's not like Trend Micro, it's all partnerships, right? Because that's how you sold everything. So then faced with this juggernaut, everyone's at AWS, how do I make money from it? And then you're like, oh my God, this is a three-dimensional hairball, right? This is where like the fear starts, the pit of despair. How do I climb this mountain? And so I'm here, I'm putting your feet to the fire. Well, I think you explained the entry points, but which is, thank you for doing that. But what are these things? The ISV Partner Program and the startup program. Like first, how would I decide between the two of them? And then we can get into what they are. Like first, if I'm listening right now, which program am I listening for the answer right now? Like which one do I have to pick to start?
So it depends on where you are, right? And where you want to be. If you're a startup, it's natural to start with the startup program. If you're not a startup, go with the other one. It depends on where you are in your own journey. But I think to go back to the question you raised around how do I really get started and what matters, whether it was Alert Logic, much smaller company, a few hundred people at the time, building a solution that no one knows about, which is true for a lot of people, right? Or at least not enough people know about. But what really I think matters is that in our roles as partner managers at AWS, we get approached by a lot of people, a lot of partners. I have the best this, and I really want to partner with you. And I appreciate all of that. But I think that you have to remember that there are a lot of people saying the same thing, and everybody wants access to the sales team. How do I get in front of your salespeople? There's a sizable sales organization whose job is to sell AWS solutions first. They will bring partners in as appropriate for what the customer needs. And so you have to remember that to get their attention, you have to really have something that the customer absolutely wants. Just think about the question that I asked my partners when I was working with that team was, when was the last time you brought a technology partner into your deal? I'm not talking about channel partners, I'm talking about technology partners. You bring a technology partner into your deal when that is the only way to close it. As salespeople, everybody's looking to close deals and count the revenue. And so you're expecting someone to do something that is unnatural because you don't do it yourself. So they will only do it when it's in the best interest of the customer and the only way to get it done. So focus on what you are doing and why. And when you have the opportunity, make sure you really deliver on it. It should work. The customer should be happy. Don't expect our reps to become your reps. Our reps have to learn 200 services and really be an expert at them. You are at 201, 202, 203. And so if you expect our reps to be able to sell your solution, that's not going to happen. They just don't have enough time to learn your stuff. It's not that they don't want to, they just don't have the time. So make your value proposition simple, easy to understand. I tell people sort of it's a 3x3 matrix. 3 things you do and 3 public references that you've done it with. And focused on AWS. Don't talk about.
I laugh because this is the same story every call. It's like, first, customers don't care about you because they care about themselves. Then who else doesn't care about you? Partners don't care about you. I mean, they may love you, take you out for dinner and everything, but the partners make the money from the customer, not from you, and they have to serve the customer first. And the third thing is really what you're trying to do is get your partner to tell your story to the customer, which means your story has to make the partner's story to the customer better. That's all that matters. Right, yeah. It's broken telephone. So get your value prop clean and crisp because your partner salespeople, they have 300 of these things. Like they need a one-liner, right? That they need to understand. And this is like the constant message that we keep saying in every call because it's universal. I laugh because you are AWS, and at this, you think, everyone has this experience. Like no matter who you're dealing with. And I bet when you go into deals asking AWS to be brought into a deal, you have the same problem. The partner's like, I don't know what AWS is.
Yeah, the simple example there, Sunir, is that we have a general sales team and we have specialist sales teams. The fact that we have specialist sales teams is because we need to get to support our general sales team on specific product areas. Yes. Right? And so we have partner sales teams who focus on partners' value propositions, right? So we announced this program called Isv Accelerate, which is basically a co-sell program where we are helping our ISV partners connect with our sales teams in opportunities, and so there's an incentive structure that's aligned there.
Okay, you're teasing people, right? But you mentioned this ISV Partner Program, and you're giving like bits of it. Help them. Okay, I'm starting off with AWS. Who do I like? Where do I begin? And what is this path? And what's in there? Like, just lay it out. There's probably like 6 things they need to know, and that's all.
Yeah. I think, of course, become a partner. I'm surprised by how often I ask and I get the answer. I was like, we are not officially a partner yet. Become a partner, it's free. You can just sign up on the website and you become a partner. And in the process, you get assigned to a partner manager. It's that simple. Everyone has one. And so that partner manager's job is to make you successful. And so first thing to understand, what are the metrics that make them successful? Because if they're successful, you will be successful. So figure that out quickly. Usually it's around joint customers because we talk about customers being the most important thing for us, where we start. When we get out of bed in the morning, we think about how are we helping customers. And so let's make it clear. It's about customer adoption. And that's what you want as an ISV. The partner manager wants that. That's the primary metric for them. How do you get there? By building stuff that excites customers. Integrations with AWS services, easy to deploy solutions, easy to find out information. What I tell a lot of my partners is look at one of our service pages. Go to any service page. You will find in there, where is it available? How much does it cost? How do you deploy? Documentation, references, videos, examples. It's all there. We don't hide anything. One of the things that people struggle with when they start working with public cloud is pricing. No one has pricing, or at least back in the day, had pricing available on the web. And so everywhere, customers had to talk to a salesperson to get pricing. Now, when you go into AWS Marketplace, pricing is right there. There's no hiding it anymore. Your list price or whatever price you decide to put out there is in the public domain. And so, make sure you understand that when our customers are looking at your solution, can they find it easily? So AWS Marketplace is a good place to get your solution listed. I know that that's an area of interest for a lot of the people on the call, because that's where customers who are used to buying AWS services can go in and find your solution, understand. We have reviews, just like you have on Amazon.com when you're shopping for charging cable for your phone. You will see reviews for software. And it's the same experience of, what's available to me, what do people think about this, how do I buy, how do I deploy it? It's all there. And so make it really easy. But then also make sure that through the partner manager, you get access to, let them be your guide through all of the different programs, funding programs, promotion programs. You don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to learn everything yourself. The partner manager's job is to make you successful. So,
first, how do you become a partner? It's APN. You join Amazon Partner Network, right?
Yep. You just go to the website, aws.amazon.com. There's
you join as a tech partner, right?
You can go through the journey and fill it out, and you essentially create an account for yourself, and then that becomes your handle inside of the APN. There's a Partner Central portal that you use, and that's kind of where you get started. It's all self-serve. That's kind of the model here, because we have tens of thousands of partners, and so everyone sort of starts out there. But very quickly, I think the question you were really getting at is, how do I stand out? How do I get an outsized opportunity relative to my competition? Which is harder for the small companies, and I appreciate that, having been at one myself. And I think the difference there is publicizing your wins, making sure, salespeople ultimately are dealing with risk of closing the deal, risk of doing it in time. And so they don't want to introduce risk into the account. And so you want to sort of showcase your successes. I've done this before with a similar size customer in a similar industry, in similar geography. So you're not the first one doing this. It works. We have references, we have examples, we have reviews that demonstrate that it works, right? And so start really leading with the customer story, leading with the crisp value proposition. When should you bring me into your deal? And even go as far as saying, these are not good fits for me.
So how do they even communicate that? How do they get someone to respond to their email or phone call?
So that is where we have a deal registration process. And so you can actually go in and register an opportunity. Now you might say, well, it's not an opportunity for AWS, it's an opportunity for you as the ISV. Why should you register it? What happens is that when you register an opportunity, the appropriate sales team for that gets notified. And if you're part of the co-sell program, they actually get paid on working with you. So A, why would you not work with the sales rep that wants to work with you? And B, if you don't, your competitors may be in that deal and have notified the rep, and the rep doesn't know that you're also in that deal. So they might just say, hey, work with these people because they're in that deal. And so you have to start building that relationship. But the co-sell program is a great way to get started with us, because there is an incentive for our sales teams, but also that the more you work with them, the more comfortable they get with you. And then over time, they start bringing you into net new stuff. And so we have lots of examples of partners that have done that, where they started out initially not really sure, but then when they started seeing some of those early wins, so even at AlertLogic, they were able to create a program which basically allowed customers to do a free assessment of their website to make sure that if there were any security misconfigurations that they could fix. And then the sales team started offering that to customers. Like, hey, if you're concerned, here's a partner that does this.
And so, here's an interesting question. So there's a deal reg form for a co-sales opportunity. But again, what is a co-sales opportunity? So I have a product. I know the customer is AWS. Is that a co-sales opportunity? Is a customer considering AWS? These are kind of the questions, that are not crisp. So I'm here to represent the peanut gallery. So
both. I mean, you think about it, a large majority of customers are considering or using AWS already, right? So chances are that the deal you are in, we are also in it, either an existing customer or a customer that's considering it. So there is a sales team likely connected with that customer today. And so they are helping that customer in the journey. Remember, I mentioned the 5% number. Most customers, there are some that are obviously further along, but most customers are moving some applications and over time, more applications. So there's a long process here, and you definitely want to get connected to the sales team. And so it doesn't have to be an existing customer. It can be a net new customer. And in an ideal scenario, if you can help our sales teams understand where there's a workload that may be available, that's fantastic. Because a lot of times what happens is that partners are following our sales team into the account and are perhaps not thinking about where they could be leading our sales team into accounts or parts of the business that we are not in.
But when you say the word workload, that's, I think, a key point. I mean, ultimately, you're bringing these products in because it drives more AWS compute or data or bandwidth. Basically, increases what you're selling from AWS as a platform to the customer, and that's what the purpose of these co-selling is, from your point of view. That's your objective, right? That's the. It
is. We take the long view on things. It's a little bit different. When I came to AWS, I was a little surprised that the sales people here are much more long-term oriented. We are not so much quarter oriented or here and now. It's really the long view of the relationship with the customer, because we really believe that there is an opportunity that is so big that if you don't sort of think about what's in it for the customer over the long term, you will simply not make the right decisions. And so it is a little different. And so they are truly interested in the customer success. It's not, let's close a deal and move on. Now, of course, having said that, they are all measured on numbers, and so they have numbers to hit. But it's not at the expense of selling them just anything to make that number. It is really focused on value delivery and making sure that the customer will be successful with that. And so we are trying to bring the right partner in at the right time. And yes, there is a lot of opportunity for partners to work independently, and you should do that. And one of the things that I tell our partners is your customers likely are already using AWS. So talk to them, understand what's working well, what's not working well with your solution today with your customers. And that's how we innovate. Right? We talk to our customers all the time, and for every feature and for every product release, we know which customer asked for it. And then we go back to them and tell them, hey, listen, you asked for this, we built it. Do the same.
So there's a bunch of questions coming in that I think can fold into this conversation based on what we're talking about. Kyle Warren asks first, I mean, there's like this matchmaking thing when registering deals, but how many partners does your partner team manage on average? Because I mean, one time I saw you were signing 11,000 partners a month. I think those are mostly consultant partners, but on APN, you have a big program. So what's the ratio?
So it depends on where in the journey the partner is. And so clearly, when you first start out, you would have a partner manager that has a lot of partners, and over time, as you increase your relationship with AWS with more customers and more engagements with us, you actually start getting a fewer number of partners that each partner manager is managing. So it's a tiered system, as you would expect. Over time, you would get more and more individual attention. But I think you can move up that pretty quickly. What we're trying to do is to align with the most committed partners, the ones that are working on the most joint opportunities, the ones who are working with who are building on our platform, who are aligned with our own capabilities and are integrated with the right things, new services that we are creating, right? So you can very quickly move up that ladder. It doesn't have to be that you start out and you sort of end up after a year in that same area.
And then Anonymous asks, it's an interesting question because there's actually more to this question than it appears, from my understanding. Is any chance of Amazon getting into reselling software itself, licenses bundles of popular software, like any physical product? And you did do Amazon for Business, which I don't think is happening anymore. So I think we're just going to focus on AWS. But here, it actually could mean any number of things. Because, first, customers can buy directly off AWS Marketplace right now. So there's a question of when do your sales teams start bringing in deals, like products into their deals, the human side of the sales. how much of the marketing, like the marketplace, is doing it naturally? Can you do? So let's start with the marketplace is probably the easiest place to start. So you guys are already selling software, so that's right.
Yeah. So marketplace is a if you think about what marketplace does, it is like what we do for our own services that we're selling third-party stuff. And so it's not that different than how Amazon.com sells third-party stuff. It doesn't always have to be things that we inventory ourselves, right? And so AWS Marketplace is built on a similar model. We want to make software consumption easy. And there are a number of interesting programs on Marketplace that I think people should know about. The fact that I mentioned earlier that you have to list your pricing, but we all understand that when a deal becomes really big, that you may do custom pricing for a customer because of the way they want to buy or how much they're buying or whatever it might be. And so there is a concept of a private offer. And so the private offer can also be listed and sold through Marketplace. It doesn't have to be done at list price or in the way that Marketplace listings typically work, right? So there's that. But you can also insert channel partners into that mix. So you can say a consulting partner might work to deploy a solution, and you can split the deal between the consulting partner or the distributor and the ISV that actually makes the software. So there are ways to sort of structure deals through Marketplace that allow ISVs to sell the way that they actually normally sell. And then finally, our sales reps get paid on deals that are done through Marketplace. So there's an incentive for our partners to sell through Marketplace, because then the sales team is also aligned with that, right? And I've seen examples of a partner that I had in the security space that 2 years ago did one deal through Marketplace as a private offer. And then the following year, in the month of January, they did 70. And now they're doing literally hundreds a month. And just sort of in 2 years, they've gone from almost nothing to a large percentage of their business is done through Marketplace.
Well, it hasn't escaped our attention that AWS Marketplace, of the partnership community, is driving a lot of revenue. And there's a lot of stories and lore about this because it's not really clear what's happening. But some of these things are interesting. So AWS pays its sales reps $1-for-$1 for what's sold in the marketplace versus, I believe, I don't know exactly, but I believe Salesforce is paying 15% because that's their take, right? That's their revenue, but you're paying like 100% of the top line to the sales rep as quota retirement. Is that right?
So it's not quite that way, but yes, there is a substantial element to it. But I think the way to think about marketplace is really the most important factor. Yes, the compensation is what brings the sales team to it. But quite honestly, what happened in the case of the security partner is that they were able to ride the customer's discount, the EDP that we call, which is the committed consumption, right? And so
the customer
you can actually
let's just explain that. Customer has agreed, I'm going to buy $1 million of Amazon web services plus, right? So they committed to that, and some of that's going to be AWS compute services, and when they have a bunch left over, and then they can retire it by buying third-party stuff. And this seems to be the magical thing for everybody.
Right. So it's not just compute, right? It could be anything from AWS, and the fact that there is a budget that's available. And so in the case of the security partner, they did a multi-million-dollar deal in a few days. Just imagine that. It was amazing how quickly it went through because there was a committed budget available for that partner. And you can actually just use that contract vehicle. So we've tried to take a lot of the purchasing friction away by listing it through Marketplace and actually making it available. Our reps are interested in doing that deal, our customers are interested in doing the deal, and our ISVs are interested in doing the deal, which is why it can be done so quickly. I guess, the legal people are not so happy because we've made it so easy. But hey.
Don't worry, they'll come back. There are many startups who are trying to control the AWS pre-spend, but that's the life of markets. That's fine. But the question here is for me personally, selfishly, because what Appline does is helps integrate billing for partnership sales. But the interest, what I've seen, tell me if I'm wrong, but most of right now AWS Marketplace is doing these private order sales right now because they're big ticket items. They're basically a piece of paper on the order desk. Is that right? Or are you doing doing some integrated billing and some direct billing? Is that right? Where you are the billing engine for the underlying product? You're doing 3 models, right? Is that right?
So the billing part is, we have a variety of billing models. Of course, we are selling through the marketplace as a consumption model as well, which is not through the private offer.
You have your own billing engine, and you can integrate a billing engine, right?
Correct.
There's two models.
That's
and then
right.
You have like this piece, like the paper order, like order desk version. Is that right?
Yeah. So the private offer stuff can also go through one of the automated models. So it doesn't have to be completely standalone. But it is fulfilled through there, and we'll do the collections and the disbursements and all of that. So what you get actually is the net revenue directly. It's no longer billings. What you're actually getting is the revenue.
Yeah, amazing. And then I don't know if do you know anything about Amazon, like Amazon for Business that was on the consumer side of Amazon? Is that still running?
Yeah. So they do. They have a program that is much more focused on business consumption, because businesses want to buy through Amazon as well. And so yes, there is a whole team around that. I'm not so engaged with that part of the business, so I cannot really speak for that. But I know that Amazon for Business is an important part of the business.
Okay, let's move on, because it's a different group entirely.
Yeah.
I know Amazon's so big. Key questions. I think these are all also related. Like, so if I'm an ISV, you talked about going up the tier. What does it take beyond delivering a lot of deal registration upon deal registration? That's nice. But what are your best partners doing to make them the best partners? I don't know if you have any stories there. You can name them or not. But like really great partnerships have moved up quickly. Snowflake, we all know, has done really well for themselves. And then what can someone else learn from that to replicate that experience?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that there are as many partners doing interesting things as you can imagine. As we are building new capabilities, our partners are doing even more, right? So, and I find interesting examples of where it's not just the product integrations or product capabilities. Of course, they're innovating there as well, but there are some very interesting things companies have done around go-to-market. And I always tell partners, dream big, come up with ideas. I had a partner that came to us one time and wanted to do something about a promotion that they wanted to send someone to space. And that was one of their big ideas. And I was kind of completely, it was very interesting. Ultimately, we decided not to do it, but it was just, an example of a completely different idea that they wanted to run some sort of a program focused on CIOs and help them understand the value proposition. And as a part of that, they would actually select one person to put on a rocket, right? We just imagine that. We have another partner that did a very interesting racing series where they essentially collected CIOs and like, I don't want to get very specific on that, around the country as part of a racetrack or racing series. And they would bring them in and have either speakers from AWS and sometimes even our executives were there to meet with the partners, with the customers and the prospects, and really sort of talk about the combined offering between that partner solution and ours. And
that's the partner driving marketing on their own. Is there anything AWS does to drive marketing as well?
So we do. We do a lot of joint activities with partners. The one thing that I always tell partners to think about is, if you pay attention to the way we operate as a marketing engine, we put customers first. So we put customers on stage. We lead with customer examples. So what we don't want is us or the partner telling the story. We want a customer telling the story, because customers trust each other more than they trust anyone else. And so what we want is, if you show up with an example, try and make it a public reference. See if the customer is willing to talk publicly about your solution and what worked and how they went through that journey. And that's really, I think, one of the key things for people to learn is to make sure that you incentivize your reps to create public references. So I'll give you an example. At AlertLogic, back in the day, we were trying to find customer examples and references, and we just didn't have enough. And so we created a small program and said, hey, for every sales rep that has a public reference or a case study, it's $500. And within a few weeks, we had to shut the program down, because here, imagine a security company, no one wants to talk about public references for security, but yet we had more than we could handle, because we had so much interest from both customers and our sales teams that wanted to drive that. And then that became the basis for an outreach. We had a ton of content for webinars. And yes, so that was all done jointly with AWS. So every webinar, we had a speaker there. That was a customer speaker. We did reInvent talks. We did summit talks. And so these are all things that we did jointly with AWS as a part of that.
Rohit, the peanut gallery is coming for you again, right? So this is a jumbled mess that people are afraid of. Like you say, okay, then get on the reInvent stage. But like, how do I get from a deal registration form to reInvent? Like, what is the garden path? Like, and how do people even map it? Like, so what are the top? So Anonymous says what are the top 3 to 5 programs? Because you're throwing a lot of things out.
Yeah.
Like, and how do I get from A to B? Like, how do I go from? Like, I'm registering. I joined APN. I'm firing things at deal registration. No one's talking to me yet. So what's happening next? Like, how do I get from I brought a deal in to 70? Like, there's a missing piece here about. Like,
so the deal registration will result in responses. You have to remember that we're working through a lot, but we are getting much better and faster at responding. So you will get a response, and when you get a response, jump on it. At my last company, we had a team whose job was to basically be ready for engagement with customers. So when we got a response from AWS, we would jump on that, make sure that it actually has a faster time to response than a typical sales deal, right? But the programs you asked, how do I get started? I think ISV Accelerate is the one that I'd like to point out again. This is designed to help our ISV partners co-sell with our sales teams. That's the one that you want to really attach to, right? The second one, I think, is broadly speaking what we call a differentiation program, so competency. So one of the programs that I ran as part of the security area was a security competency program, where we highlighted the partners that had solutions that we ourselves had vetted. And remember, we're never going to say this is the one and only partner you should work with, because it's not something that customers really appreciate. They want choice. And so we will always talk about, here are 3 or 4 partners that will do what you want. You pick what's best for you based on what features matter, pricing, availability, support, whatever matters to you, right? So we are always trying to put customers first and what's in their best interest. But when we are selecting partners, we always start with the competency ones. They are the ones who have demonstrated time and again that what they do matters to customers, that it works. And so ISV Accelerate, security competency, marketplace, I think these are 3 things that really will make a big difference to your business. But again, I keep coming back to build your own proof points along the way, get your customers to talk about you publicly and get the information out there to your partner manager. We love to see public references and case studies that tell the story of a successful migration or a successful workload deployment. And that's what really resonates inside the company. We have a concept we call win wires. We actually send them out internally. A partner did a deal with a customer, our sales team did a deal where a partner was involved, or even otherwise. And it goes out to the whole company. People see it, they hear it, they see the same partner name showing up again and again. They're like, oh, these guys may be onto something because I see their name all the time. So there are lots of things you can do, but your partner manager is your friend. You have to use them.
I know these are dumb questions, but where do I find ISV Accelerate? The peanut gallery, they're great. It's an APN, right?
It's an APN program, correct? Yes, and I think we announced it at reInvent last year, and I think if you do a quick search, you will find that program. It's called ISV Accelerate. That's it.
And what is the basic things you get out of that program? Like, does someone help you talk to you, or is it just like a?
Yeah, no. So the partner manager is incentivized. The sales teams are incentivized to work with you on opportunities. Where if you bring them into an opportunity, there's a certain payment they get. If they bring you into an opportunity, there is an even greater payment. So there's actually an incentive for the partner to work with you.
Is there like a criteria to get into this program?
Yes, there are, and it's all listed in the thing. I don't want to sort of get into.
I just want to let people know.
Yes, it is available, and the partner manager can help you do that. And of course, we are looking at who's in and who's not, because you put people in, sometimes they don't move fast enough, or they don't get great reviews, or whatever it might be. So we have to sort of change that list. But yes, there is a process.
Yeah, you should never go try to sell through a partner until your product is actually liked by customers. Because something called channel stuffing, where we have something called Bargain Herald. We used to in Canada, where you would like have all these merchandise, I guess you have winners or something, where you make a bunch of stuff that no one wants, and you push it down the distribution chain, and it ends up in the bargain bin, right? It's basically no one wanted it. You don't want to do that on your first opportunity. So you definitely get your customer references organized first. Yeah. That's like a standard thing, no matter what. Again, it's hilarious to me that you guys have the same exact messaging, just make a product customers want. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Start with building stuff that's easy to deploy. One of the exercises I did at Alert Logic, which was kind of interesting, was we actually had our executive team work through the purchase of our own software on Marketplace. And it was like everybody had an account. They all sat at the table. We said, if you cannot do it, just imagine what customers are going through right now. And that changed the culture of the company, because people are like, oh my God, I didn't realize we had so many steps, or why do we need to ask that question? Can we just skip it? And it created this culture inside between support and engineering and sales that it became a standard thing. Every release you have to go through the full process of procurement, because you're competing with partners that have solved that problem, and you're vying for the customer's attention who's used to a quick and easy way to deploy stuff. So don't ask questions you don't need to.
Here's an anonymous question. I can imagine from whom. We have a lot of BRMs in the CSA. Does AWS use it? This is a good partner to partner, just inside baseball. Do you use a partner relationship manager at AWS? Is it homegrown, or did you buy something? Or
it is homegrown.
Yeah, I mean, does Amazon do anything that's not homegrown? I don't know if you buy anything.
No, it's not true. We use Salesforce.
Okay.
We use a bunch of other third-party stuff I don't want to get into, but yes, we do. We do use a lot of stuff, but this company is made up of builders. We like to build stuff, and so a lot of it is homegrown as a result, but it's not exclusively.
All right, we're wrapping up here. Okay, we went through a bunch. So you were at Alert Logic, is my last question. So you're Alert Logic, this jumbled mess you experienced. What was one thing that when you joined AWS, you fixed from your experience at Alert Logic?
I would say I had a part to play in building and launching the Reinforced Security Conference, which was directly a result of the frustration that I felt and other partners I worked with felt about not having a dedicated go-to-market option focused on cloud security. Yes. And it was interesting. I learned a lot in the process, but I think feedback I got from some of the partners was just the best money they've spent on any marketing event ever. So it was helpful because customers got a targeted set of vendors that do exactly what they need. It was in a single area, and it was done in the way we do conferences, which is not about making money, but really showcasing solutions and educating customers, which is very different than the typical conferences are. So that was one of my contributions. There are a few others, but that one comes to mind.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, AWS is, we are thinking about selling our products, but what it is a platform for people who are trying to solve really difficult computer science problems. Security is one of them. And then AWS is able to organize the market and make those answers available to the customers, and even organize the questions, because customers don't even know what the questions are. And you're in that position, which is, like I said, AWS is making the market finally that we all wanted. So we really appreciate that you made the time here, and especially since you've gone through the journey like all of us, and you can understand our pain and suffering going through it. Yeah, so afterwards I'll send you an email. Maybe give me a couple links that I can send to people. Again, it's just like no one knows where you know where to begin. So like we talked about. So I'll include that in the follow-up.
Yeah, but talk to your partner manager, get time with them, make sure you understand that they are your ally, and they will help you navigate this. You don't have to do it on your own. Just remember that.
All right. Thank you so much.